Good afternoon, everyone. How exciting has this event been? You're learning a lot, met a lot of new folks. So first off, before we get started, I do want to thank AFCEA for this event. As the PEO, I don't typically get out to a lot of conferences, but this is definitely one that I make sure is on my calendar every year, so thank you. Okay, in the way of introductions, I am Christine Rodriguez. I am the Program Executive Officer for Manpower, Logistics, and Business Solutions for the Navy. I have 7 different portfolios, and I support both the Marine Corps and the Navy. And I'll do a little bit of an intro to MLB first. We do have 4 of the 7 portfolios that are going to be speaking. First up will be our Navy ERP event here, but just a little bit about MLB, right? So when we talk about what we do in the Manpower, Logistics, and Business Solutions, we support naval readiness by optimizing enterprise business systems and tools, right? So what does that mean? What was your initial reaction, right, when I said business systems, right? Most people think the financial system, they think accounting, they think financial reporting, but really our systems and our data enable the mission, right? So did anybody think of sailor training when I said enterprise business systems? What about logistics data? What about risk management and the safety command, right? So we do more in MLB than the financial system. And then when you think of the financial system, it isn't just about the audit. It isn't just about financial reporting. It's about supply. It's about procuring what is needed for the sailor and for the Marine. So I want you to think about that when it comes to the business systems. The data that we have is a strategic asset. So when you think about the business solutions and you think about that data and taking that data and turning it into something that the Navy and the Marine Corps can use for strategic decisions, that is critical for us. So as we go through here, first I encourage questions. I think we have some mics here as we go through. Again, PEO MLB, I have some additional information. More than willing to speak with any of you afterwards about our entire portfolio. But again, we're going to focus on the finance here first. Then we have the Navy logistics coming up, and then how we're supporting manpower for both the Marines and the sailors coming up after that. So let me introduce this panel here. So we actually have, and we're fortunate to have our resource and functional partner joining us here with our program manager. So Greg Koval is the DASN for Financial Management Systems for the Navy, and also joining is Miss Ashley Evans, who is the Deputy DASN for Financial Management Systems, and then the Deputy Program Manager for ERP Plus, which is our new or to-be financial solution for the Navy. So I'll hand it over to them, and thank you very much, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, go for it. All right. Well, hey, welcome everyone. We really appreciate the interest here. We kind of see it standing room only. There's one screen to our left, so we'll do our best to describe what's on some pretty elegant slides. But again, we'll have some Q&A later for the folks who want some more information. So to understand where we're going in the future, I'm going to walk us through the present, and then I'll build the bridge to Ashley Evans to talk about where we're going with ERP Plus. This is a journey that started for us in 1999, and we're about to conclude that journey at the end of this fiscal year with the reserves and the fleets going into Navy ERP ECC. With regards to our timeline, so we got those syscoms in very early on in the process. We took a strategic pause, but now we're really rushing toward the finish line to get everybody on one platform and on one financial reporting system across the Don. Let's go to the next slide. So when we take a look at the ERP ecosystem, and you start down at the bottom part, and I know there's probably some small text there that's hard to see, but there's a lot of current ERP capabilities. But I think to what Christine mentioned in the opening, we don't use those capabilities currently to their fullest extent. and we end up taking our ERP and hooking it up to a number of legacy business systems that makes it very difficult and expensive to run the system. It also makes it very difficult to audit the system. Every time we have to hook up an interface, every time we need to bring new and different data in from another place, it really doesn't go well with the modern ERPs. So one of the lessons that we learned is we really need to get those business systems integrated. It's not just an accounting exercise, but from a financial management perspective, we need to account for everything that happens in the DON. Where we're trying to go in the future is to ensure that we really have that integration with supply, procurement, logistics, and asset management, and we're doing as much of that as we can within the system and not relying on those older legacy systems that don't have the data quality that we really need to make the decisions we need to make across the Navy. Let's go to the next. So this is really the conundrum that we're presenting here, and it's the challenge in front of us, right? So we need to sustain our current operations and go into the NDAA audit requirement of FY28 with the system that we have. So our number one priority is really completing those migrations into ECC for the fleets and the reserves. But on top of that, we're also developing now the approach that we need to take to implement the ERP of the future. And if you could orient yourself to the bottom left-hand call-out box there, in order to do this, we're really taking an ERP first approach. That means if we can do it in SAP S4 out of the box, that's the tactic we're going to take. We have a number of integrated product teams and other exercises we're currently standing up to determine the suitability of the S4 software with the Navy business processes. From our perspective, this is going to be a huge change management initiative. It's also going to require a lot of folks to potentially change the way they do business, and that's going to have to be a focus as we go through the process. In terms of what we're talking about today and the scope of today, that's highlighted there in the red square on the slide. We're really looking at that proof of concept piece, the development and testing, and then future ERP migrations, not to be confused with where we need to go in the present. So with that, I'll turn it over to Miss Ashley Evans to talk about our lessons learned.
All right, thank you, Greg. So we have a lot to celebrate in terms of getting the Navy to one ERP as of the end of this fiscal year. And we aren't losing sight of that, but at the same time, we are acknowledging that we've learned some lessons, and those lessons are informing our approach to modernize the next version of ERP. So, in particular, some of the lessons we've learned are our master data choices have made it more difficult for us to manage this system. We have 39 company codes for the Navy. We may not need 39 company codes in the future. We would like to challenge that, and in the future we're going to be going to 1 or 2 company codes and relying on other enterprise structures in master data to help us manage our reporting requirements, our workflow requirements, and ensure that the Navy still meets its operational goals. But we can significantly simplify the way we do business with that alone. Second, as many of you know, the systems landscape that we operate in is complex. We have over 100 interfaces to ERP today, and we want to challenge that. We're taking this opportunity to challenge the status quo and make sure we're asking ourselves the question of every interface, can this capability be subsumed by ERP? If so, what would it take the Navy to do that? And lastly, we've accumulated 4 million lines of custom code in our current ERP. We don't plan to do that in the future. So what are we doing to take a different approach this time around? Well, as I mentioned, we're starting with simplified enterprise structure. And We know we need to do that for a number of reasons, but we believe that the tail of data governance, as well as the ability to manage continuous software upgrades and patching, because we've reduced complexity of how we manage the system, is something we must do. And so we're sticking to that. We're also taking an ERP first approach that you heard Mr. Koval talk about a little bit. So every capability that we are evaluating while we're gathering requirements, we're asking ourselves the question, does this capability exist in the next version of our ERP? And if so, should we leverage it, as opposed to leveraging an interface partner? And those are going to be really hard conversations, but thankfully, we've got the leadership conviction to help us through those conversations across the Secretariat and across the Navy. And so I think we're in a really good place to challenge the status quo. Okay, and lastly, we're taking a fit to standard approach. What does that mean? Well, again, we're asking ourselves the question of, how does the next version of our ERP operate, which will be S4 Hana? And can we leverage that capability? Even for the capabilities we leverage today, if we use ERP to do a certain business function today, we're going to ask ourselves the question, how does S4 do it? And are we doing it the same way? If not, what does the Navy need to do in order to re-engineer our business processes? We're investing heavily in change management as a result of what is likely to come from those changes. And there's going to be a lot of business process re-engineering coming from this. But we want to do this right. This is our chance, a once-in-a-generation chance to get this right. Next slide. So what are we doing about all of this? Well, in addition to everything I just mentioned, we all know that SAP ECC that we currently run on is becoming end of life by 2030. So we have to migrate. While that's important and it's a compelling reason to actually invest in change, there's so many more reasons that I just mentioned that we have in front of us. There's a lot of opportunity to do better for the Navy. And so we're taking advantage of this opportunity that comes with a technical upgrade to do a holistic transformation of the way Navy does business. So ERP Plus you can think of as not just a technical upgrade moving from SAP ECC to S4 Hana. We're taking advantage of this opportunity again, and this is a holistic business process transformation. And this is all in service of doing better for the Navy, leveraging out-of-the-box capability as we should without customization, minimizing our cost, and allowing us to do better in terms of system upgrades of the future so it won't take us 25 years next time. So all of those are compelling reasons and really important to our guiding principles for ERP Plus. In addition, I'd offer, this is our opportunity to get the data right, which is what gets me up in the morning. My team knows I'm a really big data person. If you know my background. But this is our opportunity. We have a lot of challenges with our data today because of the sprawling interfaces, because of the master data choices we've made over time. And this is a chance to simplify the environment, get the data right so it is decision ready, and that will help us with readiness. As Christine mentioned in her introduction, getting the data right ultimately means better decisions for our Navy. Next slide. So, where are we in this journey? Well, in FY24, we planned. We planned a lot. This is a big transformation program we have ahead of us, and it's not going to happen overnight. But we did a lot of planning in terms of what is it going to take to get there. So specifically, we established a governance model. So we have commitment up to the highest levels of the Department of Navy and across departments to get this done, which is exciting. We performed an initial review of S4 capabilities. So with our industry partners like yourselves, as well as SAP, we have looked at what capabilities should we be leveraging for the Navy in the future. We've established some working hypotheses of what our key design decisions are, and those will continue to be iterated on over the next couple of years as we learn more. We've formulated an approach to acquisition, both what we're here to talk to you about today, which is acquiring a system integrator and acquiring support as we go through this transformation. But right now, we have brought on board folks who are helping us shape requirements. And so that's been really helpful for us as we're getting off the ground. We've established resource requirements. We've kicked off work with SAP to do some discovery. And we've procured an SAP S4 Hana sandbox that we will be leveraging as we shape requirements in an innovative way to try out what we think we're buying. So just in December, we kicked off what we're calling integrated product teams by each end-to-end process. We kicked off the first two for budget to report and procure to pay. And we are working on this fit to standard requirements gathering approach. So we started with, here are the standard out of the box process flows down to level 3 and 4 that came from SAP themselves as to how these processes work with some assumptions in S4 today. And we decomposed that into user stories, and we're having conversations with change agents and process SMEs throughout the commands of the Navy to have these questions answered about how does S4 work? How does Navy work? And what do we need to do to actually change the way we do business and leverage this out-of-the-box capability? So we're just getting off the ground. We've been at this for about a month now, but it's a really exciting time. So that design and requirements development work is happening in parallel to the acquisition of an SI and other support we know is going to be required of this transformation. So that is generally what we're here to talk to you about today, as Mr. Koval alluded to, is the opportunity that is in front of us in terms of once we're done with design, well, who's going to implement this for us and what other support is needed in order to get this implementation right. So we expect that to happen over about the next year, and ultimately in FY26 and beyond. We'll be bringing on a system integrator. So I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Chris Hills to talk specifically about the acquisition approach we're taking, the timelines you're all interested in, and exactly how you can engage.
Thanks, Ashley. Let me see if I can weave this together for everybody of why this matters to you and where we need your help. We are in the market research phase of this acquisition. We're trying to wrap up the market research phase. So now is the time to listen. Now is the time to contribute. We need your input. We are also aware the other services are in the process of going through this exact same transition. So resources with S4 expertise is very minimal. So we know there are resource contentions out in the industry. So we need to think smarter. We need to be better, and we need your help, okay? So we're here to talk about two primary vehicles that we're looking to engage industry with to solve the problems you've heard today. I want to call out a couple specifics that I might not have heard quite loudly. 97,000 users by the time we have gotten our audit opinion. Over 120 interfaces. We are reducing this to a singular environment, instance, right? We need this to be the enterprise tool for the Navy so it is all connected, seamless, one ERP. we are also, something we haven't mentioned, we are in the process of transitioning into an agile methodology. So in the next month, we will be moving everything into an agile capacity model. What this means is we are eliminating waterfall from how we execute work. So we're deploying a safe methodology. I know the PEO is in the process of rolling out a lean, agile center of excellence. Within the PMW, we are moving it into safe now. We have identified product owners, product managers, and the work streams on how we're executing work. And we're watching it fail, and that's okay. It's a safe environment, literally. It's a safe environment to fail. We're having open dialogue, so we're learning. Why am I telling this to you? This is the environment we need your help with. This is the environment we need you guys helping, leaning into with us. Okay, so the acquisition. So we're primarily focused on getting the system integrator at the beginning of FY26. We're going to do that via competitive proof of concept. So we're looking at an OTA vehicle. We have not identified which one yet, but we're looking at an OTA vehicle that we would look to compete through a down selection process with at least 2 vendors that would be demonstrating the B2R, budget to report work stream, and the procure to pay work stream on it. So we plan to give the industry, whoever those minimal 2 vendors are, we plan to give them the ERP data. We would like them to demonstrate it with our data. We have not figured out classification. We think it's IL4. We got to work through what that data looks like. We plan to hand that data to those vendors that make that down select process, and we want to see which one is going to be the best performer for us. We want it to be the vendors learning about us, and we need to learn about you. So whoever is selected, we can move forward confidently together so that both organizations can be successful. To support that, after we move out of market research, there is a draft RFP for a CSO umbrella on the street. I think that closes at the beginning of February 5th maybe. I know at the end of the slides it actually has the link. Please give us your feedback. We plan to use that commercial solutions opening vehicle for how we engage and how we learn to be better execution through this program. So our largest risk on this program right now, as Ashley mentioned, is data. It's a lot of data. It's incredibly complex data, and moving from 34 company codes to 1 or 2, there's a lot of change from an IT perspective, from a data perspective, as well as the largest change is all of the users of the changes that they're going to be experiencing, because that's what really matters. So CSOs. We plan to use that CSO to get technical tools, but also consulting services. So we want to use that to become smarter. So we could look at that to buy tools that we need through this migration discovery process. We could use that after we selected the SI to acquire tools. But the way that vehicle works, and I've had lots of questions, but I will give you my perspective of how the commercial solutions opening vehicle works. There's a draft RFP that is out there. We're going to go through a down select process to say who is on that vehicle. That will be the vendors that we will be able to interchange information with and potentially procure solution services from. What that is valuable for the rest of industry, you will be able to learn where we are at and the questions we're asking as we go through the life cycle of this acquisition. So just because you're not selected to be part of the 6, I would encourage you all to be listening to the questions we're having, because that is our way of being open, transparent, and predictable. My job as a PM to hit my dates, as my bosses are going to hold me to. I'm not going to give you concrete dates out here because it all changes, but I am doing the best I can to be open, transparent, and execute. We will also have support contracts that help us inside the program office and in supporting FMS through the execution of the requirements and the evaluation process. All right. So I think I covered some of this, the proof of concept scope. So it's going to have the budget to report and the procure to pay modules is what we will plan to evaluate. That'll be the criteria. Excuse me. That'll be the criteria that we're going to be looking to get a demonstration of with our use cases, with our data. We are anticipating that to be in an IL4 environment, but we haven't defined that yet. These are all currently what we are thinking. We are also looking for proposals for what those technologies and solutions should be. That line item is, we expect all applications, proposals used during that application, during the proof of concept, to comply with DoD guidance and IL4 credentials. So why that matters, we know we will need at least an IL4 environment through our execution. We need to figure that out, whether we can reduce the risk through an ABAC model or not, from an IL5 to IL4. Lots of conversations, decisions we're needing to think about, but we know it's at least an IL4. What we don't want to do is we get into the proof of concept and we have a vendor come and they show us these cool tools and they're not FedRAMP certified, right? So please be mindful of that. So the CSO, talk a little bit more about that. It's a competitive process to obtain innovative solutions. It's an acquisition framework that we're planning to use through the ERP Plus lifecycle, as I mentioned before. It's up to the acquisition and after we get the SI, and there's the objective on the slide, but I've also said it earlier. So these are the areas of interest. It's out there right now as a draft RFP. I know the folks on the side of the room can't, I will read some of them. It's a large list, but I'd encourage you to go look on SAM.gov. Low code, no code tools. These are some of the technical information that we're interested in. Low code, no code tools, artificial intelligence tools, user interface, UI, UX, reporting tools, job scheduling, software development lifecycle tools. As we mentioned, we're going into SAFE, so we're going to need to look at the tooling that we need for us all to be supporting the SAFE implementation. Some of the business process, as we mentioned, data migration, business process reengineering, studies and analysis, cost estimating tools, modeling and simulations of processes, and policy change scenarios, just to read out a few of them for you folks that can't see the wonderful screen over there. All right. Coming up on our last slides here, the needed capabilities. I think we've talked through all of these. This is a lot of words. I don't want to reread all of them. You see all of our contracting opportunities on the right-hand side. That's the ERP Plus, but there's also an existing ERP solution that is out there that is very large, that my partner in crime over there, the deputy, gets the joy of operating on a day-to-day basis, and I'm enjoying watching and learning from. There are competitions out there for his as well. So next step, the final RFP that we're targeting to be posted for the proof of concept, we're targeting Q2 of FY25. That's why we need to wrap up market research really fastly so we can finalize our requirements and get out to industry with that draft RFP. There is a draft RFP out for the CSO umbrella, which is going to close, and then we're going to solicit the RFP for competition very shortly after that. So there is, on the next slide, you're going to ask, how do you engage us? There is an email address. I hate to give email addresses, but if you just email me, if you just call me, our organization is not going to be successful. I am the person that is here talking. There is a large team behind me that is going to be here to support. So please use that email address. We will engage with you. We may not respond back immediately, but the questions that we've received on the CSO, we are planning to answer back fully and completely all at one time. If there is something that is going to impact your comments, let us know, but it is a draft. So that is the link to get to the SAM.gov. Here is how you can engage with us, the ERP220_ERP_plus at us.navy.mil. That is how you can engage with us. All right, that took much shorter than we had planned to do, but that's good. So it is now a time for questions and answers. If you have any, we will answer to the best of our ability. There's a microphone over there.
No
That-
brave souls. Come on up to the mic.
There we
All
go.
right, here we go. We got to take her.
Hi, Mark Heineman from Navware, but I have a question because I was the accounting officer at Camp Pendleton, and I'm curious, is ERP Plus going to include DAI or the Marine Corps? Is there plans for bringing that in?
Currently, no. So for the, at least at the outset, we're looking at the Don Working Capital Fund and the Navy General Fund, and the Marine Corps will remain on DAI per the current plans. We're not going to prognosticate on the future. So right now, the scope is Navy General Fund and Don Working Capital Fund. Good question, though.
We have one.
Hey, Erica Ford. I'm partner at EY, focused on DoD and Intel. So glad to be here. We've been doing work, S4 Hana, which is really fascinating, but I was wondering how you're accounting for human-centered design and change management. That's one of the areas that we've been having a lot of fun with, and I'm sure other people in the audience have done too, so not just EY, but was curious how that's coming on the table and what you expect in terms of how you shape your requirements.
Great question. Hi, Erica. Yeah, so we are, as I mentioned earlier, investing heavily in change management for this transformation because we realize that the approach we're taking that I described as fit to standard is likely to result in a lot of change for our actual workforce. So as a result, we're starting on that early. What I described that we just kicked off in December to set requirements in partnership with change agents and process SMEs that have been named at each of the commands throughout the Navy is surrounded by change management professionals already. So as we are having these conversations about every process and even every data table and data element, we are capturing what the change impact is early so that we understand what the magnitude of change is, who it's going to impact on a persona basis, and we can come up with a plan. A lot of that will be traditional change management methods of communications and training. We are looking into how do we link that to our approach to UI UX of the future. If there are insurmountable changes for a workforce that requires some finesse in order to make the user experience productive, we will use that same data collected for the change impact assessment to inform choices about things like the UI of the future if we so choose to go in that direction and not use out-of-the-box S4 capability, right? So that data capture is happening early and often, and we hope to link those two conversations once we have data collected. But it's early days right now to make a call on, how far are we going to go with UI UX based upon our findings throughout this requirements development phase.
Yeah, I am excited to hear you talk about what you guys are doing now and thinking about early, because 10, 15 years ago, probably wouldn't have been on the table this early and would have been more reactive. So pretty cool. Thanks.
Any other questions? So I'll add on to Ashley's response as well. For those that, I came to this role from a DAS and RDT&E, and I am aware of the human factors engineering activities that are happening throughout the Navy. So we look to partner with our functionals and apply some of those methodologies that happen inside the Navy for all of our other human engineering activities. So we can partner and build those principles into what our end users will be using. One other thing I wanted to mention, I probably should have done at the beginning of this because words matter. We talk ERP Plus. That is a project. The program is still Navy ERP. So While the project I am working on is ERP Plus, we will all talk ERP Plus. This is just a technical refresh of our existing environment. It is not a new program of record. Navy ERP will still exist. We will be going through a migration from Navy ERP into the next version of ERP, but it will still be called ERP. Other questions?
I have a question regarding the proof of concept. So will you consider small businesses for the proof of concept RFP?
Yes, thank you. I failed to call out small businesses.
Thank you.
Yes. So small businesses play a key role in our innovation here. So in those contracting activities, so the support contracts that support both the program office as well as our functionals where small businesses can participate. The CSOs are also a great avenue for small businesses to participate in and actually get an award on. We are also looking for that SI to have a strong set aside for small businesses. So while we know it is a large landscape out there, small businesses play a key role in our innovation and execution of this. So we have not decided exactly what that mix is going to look like, but we need small businesses to be engaged in this. We have thresholds and benchmarks that we do plan to hit. So thank you for calling me out on that. Not calling me out, but reminding me I needed to hit that. Okay. Thank you all for your time. Really appreciate the turnout. Any other final remarks, closing comments?
No, I think, when we look back on this, 5 to 7 years, this is really, I think, the first step we're taking toward a simplified, standardized data structure, standardized business processes and systems. And it's really important that we get this right. It took us 20 plus years, 25 years going on just to migrate our commands into the current instance of ERP. We're not doing that in the future. We're going to move a lot faster, but getting our system in the future in place in an economical way so we can sustain it and also do a little better in audit will really be key to our success as we move forward. So thanks for your interest. I love to see the standing room only, and we really appreciate your support here as we move forward.